Okay, peace, 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 family. Sister Victoria X here, and today we will be doing a read along. The book that we will be reading along for today will be How to Eat to Live, Book One, by the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And we're going to be reading chapters 1 through 5 today. So, just so that you all know, I will be doing my book readings in the style that I've always done my book readings. I'm going to read the first 5 chapters today first, and then I will have my commentary at the end. And for those of you who are on YouTube, you already know if you don't like my commentary, that's completely fine. I have it marked down below. Where you can start and stop the reading. So that's exactly why I do my readings in the way that I do, because I know and understand everybody don't care about what I got to say. Okay, everybody don't care what I got to say, so I'm going to do the reading first, and then we're going to do the commentary at the end. So give me 1 second. Yeah, no. Yeah, so that's what we are going to go ahead and do. I apologize in advance if my children do not heed the instruction that I gave them. They're supposed to be on nap time and reading time. So if they interrupt, can't help that. So I'm going to be reading chapters 1 through 5. And because I'm reading more than one chapter at the same time, I'm just going to tell the chapter title as I'm reading versus just giving the rundown. Nope, I'm going to give the rundown right now. So I'm reading chapters 1 through 5, The Right Way to Eat, Vegetables, Food God Suggests, Why They Urge You to Eat the Swine, and then the Pig Swine. And so now we're going to go ahead and get started. Chapter 1, Right Way to Eat. There is no way for us to learn the right way to eat in order to live a long life, except through the guidance and teachings of Allah, who came in the person of Master Farad Muhammad. The Bible says that he will give us more life abundantly, but he demands strict obedience to his will. There is no way of prolonging the life of human beings or any other life unless it begins with restrictions of the foods which sustain life, the right kinds of food, and the proper time when it should be taken into our bodies. Jehovah taught Israel how to live, but Israel rebelled against the law of Jehovah, handed down to them through Moses, the servant of Jehovah. There are many Jews today called Orthodox Jews who try to eat in order to live. They are careful of the type of food that goes into their stomachs. They will not slaughter an animal without trying to drain that animal's blood out of its body before making it for food. They will not accept diseased animals, birds, or fowls. We give credit to the Jews for still trying to obey that which they were ordered to do by Allah through the prophets that Allah sent to them. The Jews paid the penalty for disobedience and are still paying. However, they are the only people the Holy Quran teaches whose food we can eat. They, in turn, can eat our food. The Muslims who try to live according to the teachings of the Holy Quran will not eat the wrong food when they know what that food is. Of course, those who are becoming converts to Islam in America, my followers, are being tried. The Christians, white and black, try to force or deceive my followers into eating foods they know we, the Muslims, do not approve. In prison, they almost starve my followers, trying to force them to eat the filthy, poisonous swine flesh. This I know because when I was in prison, they did the same to me. Thanks to the coming of Allah in the person of Master Farad Muhammad, if we obey what he has given to us in the way of proper foods in the proper time to partake these foods, we will never be sick or have to pay hundreds, thousands, and millions of dollars for doctor bills and hospitalization. The Christian people have one of the most brutal ways of killing animals for their food. Many of their animals are killed under fright and excitement. They actually murder the animals they eat. We, the Muslims, We have not been able to go out to the slaughterhouses as yet to choose our meat, as the Orthodox Jews are doing. Slaughter our animals or cattle at a time when they least expect it. We take their lives in the name of Allah with a prayer over this condemned life to be used to sustain our lives. Allah has taught me how to eat in order to live. I have been teaching it to my followers, but we often become negligent and fall victim to our own negligence. As a result, we are calling the doctor or going to the hospital because we did not eat the right foods and in the proper way. Hereafter, I shall enforce restriction on my followers to eat as Allah bids us. As I have said to my followers on many occasions, life cannot be prolonged unless we are careful of what we eat and when we eat. The foolish idea of eating 3 or 4 times a day and all between meals is like the poisonous swine who never has any regular eating habit. Even a dog will not eat when he is full most of the time. The hog, however, swallows as long as he can and then regrets that he can't keep swallowing. He will crawl into his food and wait until he can swallow some more. He is so greedy, he won't leave his food. Chapter 2. Vegetables. Virtually all vegetables are good to eat except collard greens and turnip salad. The roots of turnips do very well, but not the salad. Cabbages are good, especially the white head, but not the green leaves. Cauliflower is a very fine vegetable, but take away the green leaves. There are a lot of other good vegetables that have been grafted from original vegetables, though some of the grafted vegetables are not good to eat. Do not eat the vegetable called kale. Eat some spinach, but do not become an habitual spinach eater. Eat rutabaga, a little every now and then. You may eat as much garlic and onion as you like, but no sweet potatoes and no white potatoes. Sweet potatoes were never good for any human to eat. They are good for hogs, but not for you. White Irish potatoes are a food for people who live in frigid zones, a staple food for such as Europe, Northern America, and Canada. But potatoes and rice are too starchy for you and me. They laden us with too much starch and fat, which are friends to diabetes. Sweet potatoes are full of gas. Do not eat them. There are so many more vegetables you will find edible or forbidden to eat in this book. If you like, write me for information on other vegetables not mentioned here. Peas. Allah forbids us to eat peas. He considers most peas fit for cattle and herds of animals, but not for the delicate stomach of human beings. No black-eyed peas, field peas, speckled peas, red peas, or brown peas. Do not eat the split peas you find in the store. Peas, collard greens, turnip greens, sweet potatoes, and white potatoes are very cheaply raised food. The southern slave masters used to use them to feed the slaves and still advise the consumption of them. Most white people of the middle and upper class do not eat this lot of cheap food, which is unfit for human consumption. Beans, dry. No beans did he advise except the small size and not the larger size, the little brown pink ones and the white ones. This bean he valued to be very high in protein, fats, and starches, and it is a safe food for prolonging life. As you will find, most of the Muslims like their bean soup. These beans are dry beans. He said that he could take one of our babies and start him off eating the dry navy bean soup and make that child live 240 years. He described no other bean. This dry bean or pulse is of ancient origin. It was this bean, according to certain historians, that Daniel preferred for himself and his followers in the prison of Nebuchadnezzar. Do not add rice and meats to these beans because they contain proteins, fats, and starches. Fruits. Virtually all fruits are good. We eat apples, oranges, bananas, pears, peaches, tangerines, mangoes, plums, grapes. Do not eat processed dried grapes. Eat natural sun-dried grapes. Sun-dried grapes. Pomegranates, lemons, and grapefruit. Bread. Eat whole wheat, but not the whole grain. It is too much for the digestive system. Eat wheat, never white flour, which has been robbed of all its natural vitamins and proteins sold separately as cereals. You know, you know as well as I that the white race is a commercializing people and they do not worry about the lives they jeopardize so long as the dollar is safe. You might find yourself eating death if you follow them. He flatly forbids us to eat cornbread. The white race and some African people used to live off cornbread because it is cheaply made. It is not good for human consumption because of its potency, which only animal stomachs are able to digest. Positively do not eat cornbread. If you must or are forced to eat it, he said to cook it 2 or 3 times, put it up, sour it with a good yeast, dice onions into it, and let it ferment like wheat bread. After this, cook it 2 or 3 times. Never eat fresh, hot corn muffins or hot cakes in syrup. When you eat half cooked bread, it shortens your life, as all bread will rise again in our stomachs, buckling our stomach and intestinal walls. The more it is cooked, the less this will happen. Rye bread, if it is cooked enough, is fine to eat. It is not good for office people. They are not active enough to digest such bread. It is good for a working man doing manual labor. Office workers should not even eat baked beans, nor beans with rice and meat in them, because their jobs do not permit them enough activity to digest such heavy foods. Prepare your own food. Take time and prepare your own foods. Do not kill yourself by running to the store buying processed foods to eat, and never buy those ready-made biscuits. We plan to install health food departments in our bakeries, grocery store, and restaurants soon. Watch for them. Do not eat the highly rich soybean, which is a new flour on the market. These beans are for cattle, not human beings. The oil from soybeans is not good for our stomach. The soybean flour is being mixed with wheat flour by the flour mills. In fact, the Christians are experimenting with all foods. They do not care what they eat as long as it does not kill them instantly. Beware. For good health, we should raise and prepare our own food. As I said in this book, the white race is a commercializing race by nature. It is the almighty dollar they are after, not long life. Remember, cook your bread thoroughly. Make thin rolls so that you can cook them well done. The rolls should be sliced, and these slices of bread should be toasted through and through before they are eaten. There is no such thing as being too stale. Actually, stale bread is better on your stomach and digestive system. Positively eating system. Positively eat no nuts. The eating regulations in this book are a must with my followers. Begin at once. Eat only one meal a day, regardless of the work you are doing. Do not put lard in your bread. Using vegetable oil, corn oil, pure butter, olive oil, or whatever good vegetable oil you choose. Keep any hog or swine out of your foods. Do not eat fried or hard-baked foods if you can avoid them. When it comes to meats, no fried chicken or steaks, nothing fried. Fried foods are hard on your digestive system and will cut short your life. Chapter 3, Food God Suggests. What food does Allah God suggest? He suggests the food that is good for us and does not make us ill. Food that is for human consumption and not for animals. Never before have we gone so far astray. The European white race, blessed with the privilege of eating the best food the earth provides, has taught us to eat the worst, divinely prohibited food. We eat all the time, 3 and 4 times a day. This is enough to wear out the intestines of a brass monkey. Eat a single meal a day, no matter what anyone says. If your doctor says that you should eat more than one meal a day, ignore him with a smile and eat only once a day. If he tells you he eats 3 meals a day, tell him that his length of life is about the same as his patient's. Then tell the doctor to try eating 1 meal a day. The more idle our stomachs are, the longer they will last. The more we tax our stomach, the sooner it wears out. We all try to live as long as we can because nature never teaches us that we should not try to live. We do not have a nature that teaches us to die or teaches us life somewhere else. No matter how staunch a believer the Christian may be in a life after the grave, if he gets sick, he sends for the doctor. He prays to stay on here and not to go to the unknown, to live a long time. Allah in the person of Master Farah, to live a long time, Allah in the person of Master Farah Muhammad has taught me life must begin with the type of food that will prolong life. We have been talking about bread. There are people so poor they have no choice, and there are some so rich who still have no choice. Whole wheat bread cooked thoroughly is the best bread. It should be ground very fine. It can be ground almost as fine as its white kernel. Never eat cornbread. As I said, rye bread is all right for the hard-working man. Even at that, it should be cooked twice. The Christian civilization has taught the so-called Negro slave to eat freshly baked bread, white biscuits or white rolls just out of the oven, and it scorns old bread, which is better for the stomach than freshly baked bread or cakes. There are many foods we would like to teach you not to eat, but at present, so many of you cannot avoid eating them. We must prepare and grow our own food because this is a highly commercialized world. They graft a lot of food, and some of this food is not good for our stomachs. Soybean flour is very rich and not good for our stomachs. Our stomachs are too delicate for soybean flour. Therefore, leave those beans alone. The animals, especially cattle and hogs, love them. Grind them up and they will eat them. They are very high in protein. The lima bean is another large bean advertised by the devil for you to eat, which will almost burst the lining of the stomach and the intestines of a Texas bull. They said that one is good for the nigger. No, do not eat the smaller ones, either the ones they call baby lima beans, baby belly busters, pastries and cakes, the kind made with crust of white flour and sweetened with white sugar. No, so sweet you can still taste them the next day are not good for our stomachs. All this hastens you to the graveyard sooner than you would like to go. We should eat fruit and fruit pies. I love that little black blueberry pie, huckleberry, as we call it in the South, but do not make it with white sugar or crust of white flour. Use brown sugar and whole wheat flour for your pie and cobbler crust. Apples are better when eaten raw than when made into pies. This goes for pears, peaches, and bananas. All fruit is better for you raw than cooked. When fruit is raw, we get the benefit of its natural vitamins. If possible, never eat cooked fruit. If you must eat meat, always eat the cleanest, such as healthy and tuberculosis-free beef. The lamb is the best. Most beef is too coarse for our stomachs. The lamb is a much finer grained meat. Eat small young pigeons, squabs, which have never flown from their nests. Do not eat any bird that has been free to fly around and look for its own food. This is the teachings of Allah to me. Chicken are not fit to eat. You have to nurse them so carefully to keep them away from filth. If you would like to find good food such as lamb, beef, or even chicken, if you are a Muslim, buy it from the strictly Orthodox Jews. Be certain It is an Orthodox kosher market because some Jews eat the pig. Orthodox Jews are excellent in protecting their health, even spiritually trying to do and eat like their prophet Moses taught them through the divine teachings of Allah. If you respect yourself as Muslims, the spiritual Orthodox Jew will respect you. Of course, no one will respect you unless you respect yourself. Do not eat ground meat unless you see it ground. Do not buy the Christians ready prepared ground meats or any ready ground meat. Buy the quality meats that you like and have them ground by Orthodox kosher butchers through their meat grinders because they do not have the pig near their shops. They are like us, they hate the divinely prohibited flesh. If you must eat rice, please brown it thoroughly in your oven or on top of your stomach with a little butter or oil to keep it from sticking. Keep stirring it vigorously. Remember, eat only one meal once every 24 hours. Chapter 4, why they urge you to eat the swine. The taking of the prohibited flesh of the swine as a food is beyond righteous imagination. It is difficult to understand why Christians eat such divinely prohibited flesh while having a Bible and the law given to Moses against the swine flesh. Other prophets down to Muhammad preached against the eating of swine. Christians are among the largest consumer of pork in America, and they deliver this rat throughout the world to other people. They are so fond of swine flesh that they sacrifice it in the church and then ask divine blessing upon it. They barbecue and cook it and hold a feast in their places of worship and eat this slow death, poisonous animal, which God has forbidden as though they had an option with God. No wonder Isaiah says that they stand behind one tree in the garden, eating swine flesh, the abomination, the mouse, and the broth of the swine in their vessels. And yet they will tell all the Muslims and Orthodox Jews that they are holier than we who don't dare even to touch the swine's carcass. Preachers and priests are working along with the enemy or adversary of God, teaching the people that it is all right to eat swine. Their bellies stretched with the hog in them and saturated with the whiskey and wine. This is the type of religion under which you have been brought, Christianity and its preachers and priests. None of them have tried to prevent you from breaking this divine law by teaching you the consequences of such an act. Allah taught me that this grafted animal was made for medical purposes, not for food for the people, and that this animal destroys the beautiful appearance of its eaters. It takes away the shyness. Not for a food for the people, and that this animal destroys the beautiful appearance of its eaters, and it takes away the shyness of those who eat this brazen flesh. Nature did not give the hog anything like shyness. Take a look at their immoral dress and actions, their worship of filthy songs and dances that an uncivilized animal or savage human being of the jungle cannot imitate. Yet, average Black people who want to be loved by their enemies, regardless of what God thinks of them, have gone to the extreme in trying to imitate the children of their slave masters in all of their wickedness, filthiness, and evil. The Arabic meaning of hog or swine, according to one Arabic Muslim in Khanzir, Khan, he says, means I see, Zir means foul. This is the meaning of the English word swine. Khanzir, or I see the animal foul and very foul, is the best explanation that I have heard to cover the very nature and characteristics of this animal. He is the foulest animal. He lives off nothing but filth. The only way you can get him to live and eat better food is to keep him from getting to filth. He is so poisonous, 99.9%, that you can hardly poison him with other poison. You can even give him lye, something you think would cut up the intestines when eaten. Snakes can't poison hogs. They eat them and fatten. The bite of snakes doesn't harm them because they eat the bitter. He is so poisonous and filthy that nature had to prepare him a sewer line, and you may find the opening on his forelegs. It is a little hole out of which oozes pus. This is the filth of his body, and that of his body that cannot be passed fast enough. His poison is that of a live nature in the form of a parasitic worm that is called trichina, commonly known as porkworm, which is found in the stomach and intestinal walls until it finally breeds and works itself into the muscles of the body of the eater. From there, the trichina worm themselves into the spinal cord and travel the spinal cord toward the brain, at which time there is no possible cure. They then cause the victim to suffer with rheumatism, backaches, stomach aches, headaches, fever, and even change the color of the eyes of some eaters to a dull brown or dull red. They fill the eater with a drowsiness, laziness, slow thinking, slow moving, and the tendency to be easily irritated. The swine eaters are always ready to rise up for a dispute and fight other people and among themselves. He is the greediest animal. He never knows or cares to stop eating as long as he sees something to eat. He is the dumbest animal. He keeps his nose smelling and eyes looking for something in the earth. You could feed him all day long and he will never look up to see his feeder. In the case of bad weather arising, he is never intelligent enough to go in before it actually starts raining or hailing on his back. He takes no warning. He will keep his head in the earth, rooting until the storm is lashing his back with rain and the lighting is blinding his eyes. You eat this animal from his snout to his tail and all of the poisonous wormy intestines. Yet you say you are holier than any religious people. Please learn to eat one meal a day and let it be without swine flesh. And many of the ailments that you are now suffering and getting medicine from the doctor for will disappear. To you diabetics, eat one meal a day and lay off that starch and sugar. They are only making you sick. Write and let me know that you have tried eating once a day, shunning sugar and starches, and before a week's time, your urine will be negative of sugar and acid negative. It is ignorant of you to suffer with this disease when it can easily be cured. Just stop eating that which is causing your trouble. Eat one meal a day. You will not starve and die. The pig swine. Chapter 5, the pig swine. I think we have said enough about the poisonous animal called in Arabic khanzir. Beyond a shadow of a doubt, the swine is the filthiest and foulest animal human beings could have resorted to for food. The flesh of the swine, while cooking, has a very different smell from that of other animals' flesh while cooking. Even when it is not being cooked, it has a bad smell. Worms and insects take to its flesh while in the farmer's curing stage faster than any other animal's flesh. And in a few days, it is full of worms. In many cases, the eater of the flesh becomes nauseated when the flesh is being cooked in the early morning. It is a divinely prohibited flesh, and God Allah has prohibited you and me, my brothers and sisters of the black nation, from eating it or even touching its dead carcass. Please, for our health's sake, stop eating it. For our beauty's sake, stop eating it. For our obedience to Allah and His law against this flesh, stop eating it. For a long life, stop eating it. For the sake of modesty, stop eating it. Do you know that if we, the 22 million lost found members of our nation here in America, would stop eating this pig, his poisoned swine flesh, it would mean a great economic saving to us? And I do not think the government would be so eager to eat it themselves if we would obey the divine law against this divinely prohibited flesh. There is an old, foolish answer our people have given to such advice. The white folks eat it, and my grandparents ate it, and they lived to be 75 and 80 years old. If Noah and Methuselah had heard you boasting that your parents lived only 75 or 80 years of eating poison, they would have considered your parents as never having grown up to become adults, according to their good way of eating the best food, about twice a week in nearly 1,000 of our present calendar years would consist of 365 days. God does not punish us for the crime of disobedience to His law when you are ignorant of His laws. But after knowledge of His laws, He is justified in punishing us by setting the full penalty according to the disobedience. As I have previously said in this book, most vegetables that are sold on the public market are good to eat with the exception of those Allah prohibits, such as collard greens and the rough turnip salads. You have plenty of other vegetables to eat, and you have good foods other than lima beans, field butter beans called baby lima beans, and black-eyed peas field peas as we call them. 32. Okay, and that is the conclusion of the first 5 chapters of How to Eat to Live by Elijah Muhammad. So one second, I'm just trying to. Okay, so that is the conclusion of those particular chapters. I'm going to actually moving forward. I'm going to stick to I'm going to stick to my 15-minute commitment because I feel like there's so much to unpack in all of these chapters, and to sit here and try to unpack it after reading for 30 minutes is a whole lot, especially during Ramadan. If you notice, my pitch kind of went lower because when I read louder, I always have to like water, but I can't drink no water. So yeah. So oh my gosh. So the primary thing, right, in these chapters that really stuck out to me was the fact that culturally over the years, right? Because when we think about it, all of our, cultural foods, the foods all our soul foods, right, all lead back to slavery. And that is, it has become a custom for us because that's what they would give us, right? And it really stuck out to me that it was basically saying that they are all very cheaply raised foods. So the peas, collard greens, turnip greens, sweet potatoes, white potatoes, they're all cheaply grown foods. So it's no wonder that those were the primary foods that they would give us, because why would they spend their money on people that they did not even see as a person? They wanted to spend as little as possible to feed us. And that's the food that we were given. And now we've made it a part of our culture. We've assimilated that into our culture. So now that's just what we eat. That's soul food. And if you don't eat it, Lord have mercy, you might get kicked out of the family picnic, the family barbecue, or whatever, the cookout. Okay. And so that was the most common thing here for me, is just how, we don't even consider and think about the things that are passed along to us. We just take it as word. We just take it as that's just how it's supposed to go. The other thing that I kind of wanted to point out, and I'm gonna swipe through my thing here. And I know that he's going to address it later on in the book, but I think that it was so good how not only did he say that there was a proper food to eat, but a proper time to eat that food, right? And I think that sometimes we feel like if we eat one, it's a science to it. It's not just eating one meal a day. It's eating one meal a day coupled with the right food, coupled with the right time for us to be eating it. Go out and close. Thank you. Um, you see children try to play you. He know he's supposed to be reading, but he trying to come in here and have a conversation. No, no, sir. Um, and so that was very important. It just goes back to the science of it all. It's not just one thing that gets you to a place. Just like with success, it's not just working hard that gets you to success, right? Some people do work, and they might make it through, but it's work coupled with strategy, coupled with mentorship, coupled with coaching that gets you to the success. And the mentor and coaching gets you there faster. So it's all of the science of it. It's a combination of things that allow us to move forward much better. And then he started talking about you may eat as much garlic and onion as you like, but no sweet potatoes and no white potatoes. Now, y'all, I just recently started accepting this. I never liked garlic, right? And I think it's so crazy, probably because I don't remember my mom. My mom was not a cooker. Like she was like the big family, big event cooker, but she was not a cooker. And when I think about it, like most black women that cook, we like it's always garlic in the mix. And so maybe that's why I've never been a fan of garlic. I don't like the smell of it. I mean, well, I didn't like the smell of it. I didn't want to taste it. However, for hello, can you guys hear me? Can you guys hear me? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Not this again. I'm gonna have to put on my headphones, y'all. I have to put on my earphones. Okay, can y'all hear me now? Y'all should be good. Y'all should be able to hear me. Nobody called me. I was trying to screenshot something and then it just took me all the way off. But now it's like I'm becoming more used to it because one, my husband always eating garlic and onions, and so at that point you just got to get used to it. But I thought that was interesting that it pointed out, because even when you think about most of like the homemade remedies, homemade medicines, homemade cough, syrups, they all usually have either garlic or onion in it. So eat up, okay? The other thing I wanted to point out, ma'am. The other thing I wanted to point out, let me see, was one, do not eat a single meal a day, no matter what anyone says. And he also starts talking about, and I'll say two things. This is separate but the same, because he started talking about the negative effects of pork and how it makes you drowsy and how it makes you basically not coherent. But I would also say eating more than one meal has a similar effect. It's not as drastic as when you eat pork. However, if you strive to eat one meal a day, you will notice that when you stop eating one meal a day and you go back to snacking all day, taking multiple naps, taking multiple meals, you'll notice you're more drowsy, you're more tired, you get more irritated, right? And it's because our bodies are not made to eat all of that time, right? It's not made to eat all of those times. And if you've ever come off of a fast, you can definitely feel the difference. Now you're all automatically sluggish and you need 3 and 4 naps a day. I remember when on the days that I'm usually fasting, like the first day, okay, I'm still getting used to it. But by the second to third day, I don't really have to take too many naps. So that's just to go to show that we don't need to eat all of this many times a day. We don't need to be snacking, eating, snacking. And then we like to snack on these nuts that it literally says that the nuts are so hard on our stomach. Right? But it's all of the foods that are not good for us, all of the foods that will not prolong our life. And they don't want to prolong our lives. They don't even want to prolong their own lives. Well, I guess they do because they're not eating this trash, right? Remember, I told you what itis means, and we be bragging about having the itis. Drop it in the comments again. I forgot what you said itis means, but I know exactly what you're talking about, right? So of course they wouldn't. So they want us to eat 5 and 6 times a day with snacks in between. It says the more idle our stomachs are, the longer they will last. And I'm not sure if he's going to get into it inside of this book, but I know in the teachings it was talking about how the stomach is the only organ that we cannot regenerate, that cannot regenerate. It cannot be fixed. Vegan, initially eating twice a day, by literally just started eating just 1 meal a day. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. It says, and the itis is inflammation. So we out here bragging, talking, I got the itis, and there's literal inflammation in our body. Like must begin with type food. And you know what the other thing that threw me when I read this, I feel like I've read this before, but it threw me. And he was saying that chickens are not fit to eat. You have to nurse them so carefully to keep them away from filth. And who is chasing down chickens, trying to make sure that they ain't eating something? Who is watching these chickens all day? So I'm gonna have to check myself on that one, because I love me a little, a little strip. I love me a little chicken strip. And do not eat ground meat unless you see it ground. How many of us is going to, we don't even go to the deli anymore where they grind the meat right in your face. We just buy it off the shelf. But how many of us buy ground meat and don't even think about that? We don't even, like, that was a check to me, because I know a kosher, place out here. But I'm talking too loud, y'all. That was a check for me, because I buy ground meat and I don't even think. Now, I don't eat pork, but how do I know they ain't grind no pork on the grinder that was used to grind my turkey stuff? So we got to be very mindful. And one thing that I've learned from Taylor is that her intentionality with the food that she puts in her body is on a whole nother level. And that's the level that we really have to strive to get into, because she don't put nothing in her mouth without thinking first, like, okay, where did they get this from? How did they put this together? I know it's not pork. I know it's not this, but what the ingredients say? Are there any byproducts of pork in there, which is the same thing as eating the pork? Like, we don't think like that, but that's what's required to be intentional and eat the right foods to prolong our lives. The other thing that he was talking about when he got to the chapter about pork, is about the pig, and how it has that little hole in its hoof, and it says it has a little hole out of which it oozes pus. How nasty and filthy of an animal do you have to be to where you need an actual drain to ooze out the disgustingness in your body? Like, how much poison do you have to be filled with in order to where you have a drain for the poison? Right? And then it talks about the pork worms, and how the pork worms, when you eat it, it gets into your body, it soaks into your tissues, and then it makes its way up to the spinal cord and gets into your brain. There's so many videos online where they're showing people heating up their pork and the worms literally moving on the flesh. But they're still going to eat it. Right? Then he goes on to say, it was talking about how the flesh of the swine while cooking has a very different smell from that of other animals. Flesh while cooking. Even when it's not cooking, it has a bad smell. Worms and insects take to its flesh while in the farmer's cursing stage faster than any other animal flesh. This whole time, right? When we talk about, what's it called? They don't call it pig intestines. They don't call it pig intestines. What they be calling it, y'all? What they be calling it, not to basically try to hide the fact that it's the pig's poop chute. What is it? It's not pig intestine. What they call it? Come on, y'all. Y'all know what they call it. Chitlins. They done made up an imaginary name to hide the fact that they eating the poop chute. Mm. Now, how delusional does one have to be to completely come up with a name? Why can't you just call it pig intestines? That seemed just about as long as chitlins, right? And the whole time, let me tell y'all, when I was younger, oh my gosh, it's so embarrassing. And I had no idea. But when I was younger, they used to make I can't say the word, those intestines. They used to make those intestines in the sink, be the stankiest period in the house. And I just could never imagine why these things smell like that. Like, why do they smell so bad? And it wasn't until I never ate it. Sorry. I eat with my nose and my eyes first. If it stank, it definitely ain't going in my mouth. So I never ate no intestines in my life. I ain't never ate no intestines in my life. But it wasn't until after like 25, maybe 23, that I found out that it was poop that they were cleaning. And they be knowing that they be cleaning the poop. But they just clean the poop and put some hot sauce on it to hide the poop taste. I'm sorry. I just never understood that. The other thing it was talking about for the health sake, stop eating it. The beauty sake, stop eating it. Right? Some of us want this beautiful skin, not realizing that the very things we put in our mouth is contradicting that. It says God does not punish us for the crime of disobedience to his laws when we are ignorant. But once you know, you know. You know. But after knowledge of his laws, he is justified in punishing us by setting the full penalty according to the disobedience. I'm telling y'all, this stuff ain't no joke. This stuff is no joke. But y'all, that is all for my commentary. There was something else I wanted to highlight that came to my mind, but then it left as soon as it came. Oh, the other point that I thought was very, very interesting in here, he was saying that we all try to live as long as we can because nature never teaches us that we should not try to live. We do not have a nature that teaches us to die or teaches us of life somewhere else. Like when we really think about it, right? We just like, we don't get taught the real stuff in school, the stuff that will allow us to be productive citizens. We're not taught that in school, right? But we are also not taught how to live. We all want to live long, but we don't get taught how to live. We don't get taught how to die either, but death is all around us, so we don't really need a lesson on that. But that is so true. We are not taught how to live. So life must begin with the type of food that will prolong life, y'all. So I'm glad that I was able to read this with y'all. Like I said, I'm going to stick to just read it for 15 minutes and then my little 5-minute, 7-minute commentary at the end because now I'm worn out. Can't drink no water, even though my mouth feels like a dry desert. Ramadan. So I'm going to strive to do these readings every day at 10 a.m. Central Standard Time. 10 a.m. Central Standard Time because I think the lecture should be over at 10 on Sundays. Okay, maybe that Saturday, Sunday, they might have to be a little later. So I'll let y'all know. But for the most part, you can expect to hear from me Monday through Friday at 10 a.m. Central Standard Time, which is, I'm sorry, I lied. 12 p.m. whole time. 12 p.m. Central Standard Time is 10 a.m. for us on the West Coast. So that's when I'm going to be going live to read this. Like I said, it's going to be short and brief. It's not going to be no long thing like it was today. The only reason why I continued reading today was because I said I was going to read those chapters. But moving forward, it's going to be short. Okay. It's going to be chapters one. It's going to be for 15 minutes. Thank you all so much for tuning in. If you would like to get notified when I go live to do the read alongs, please text read along to 424-306-0585 or click the link below for you in YouTube, and you'll be able to click the link to text it to text directly to me. All right. Peace, family.